Hey everyone, how is it going? Welcome, 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 welcome. I'm trying to stall for time, as you can see. Welcome to SPSM Chat, Suicide Prevention Social Media. It's like a Zoom hangout, but with less live viewers. I'm Rudy Caceres, at Rudy Caceres on Twitter, and I'm excited because we get to talk about something that I actually have lived experience in, bipolar. It's World Bipolar Day tomorrow, all over the world, March 30th. Hope I got that right. If not, we'll edit that out later. And we got three powerhouse bipolar advocates, Gabe Howard, Andrea Paquette, and Anja Burcak. And we got Joelle Marie in the house as well, my co-host. So sit back. We're going to have a good time. If you're watching this live, please let us know that you care. Let us know that you give a damn by using that hashtag SPSM. If you're on Twitter, follow along with the Twitter chat, which is happening right now. And if you're on Facebook, let us know that you're here as well. We can see your comments. We can see everything. But please share if you can. Please, please, please share, retweet. We're also on youtube.com/SPSM Chat, which is pretty much the easiest way to go back to watch older episodes, because you can go to our SPSM YouTube channel and see everything from years gone by, even with the Doc Foreman days. And we're also on mixer.com/SPSM Chat, but Marie's not on, so hello to no one on Mixer. Without further ado, let's go around our round rectangle panel of amazing bipolar advocates. First, let's go to the co-host, Joelle Marie.
Hi. Hi, my name is Joelle Marie. I am a certified peer specialist, and one of the first things I was diagnosed with was depression and ADD, which actually ended up being bipolar. I have written a lot on bipolar in the past, and I'm really excited to have this conversation because I don't get to talk about bipolar as much. So, hi.
Awesome, awesome. And let's go on to our next. Well, let's go on to our first guest, the real star power right here. This is the real draw of tonight, Gabe Howard. So for all that who don't know, which is becoming less and less so by the minute, tell the whole SPSM Chat universe, galaxy, solar system, planet, who is Gabe Howard?
Hi, my name is Gabe. No, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name is Gabe Howard. I live with bipolar disorder. I am also the author of Mental Illness is an Asshole. I hope we can swear. I forgot to clear that with you, Rudy, so my apologies. And I am the co-host of the Not Crazy podcast. And yeah, I've done a lot of stuff in the bipolar space. So I'm excited to talk about it because, talking is like my superpower.
We joke around that everyone is allowed one fuck on SPSM Chat a week, so
I am
I think you're
saving
good.
mine. One of you is getting it. I'm not going to say who, but I'm
It's a
holding
lovely
it.
way of putting it.
I'm banking it.
Tell the whole world, the whole SPSM Chat universe, galaxy, solar system, planet, who is Andrea Paquette?
Well, my name is Andrea Paquette. And,
I like my way better.
Yeah, your way is pretty cool. I am president and co-founder of the Stigma Free Society, original founder of the Bipolar Disorder Society of British Columbia here in Canada. And my nickname is the Bipolar Babe. I own that brand and mantra as a professional speaker on bipolar disorder and share my personal story for the last 10 years. I'm also a 5-year-long blogger on Bipolar Magazine. And I love talking all things personal story, bipolar disorder, my experience with suicide attempt, and everything that I went through. So I'm just here, hopeful today to contribute to an amazing conversation. And I'm very excited. So thank you.
I like your headset. I feel like I'm talking to customer service.
Yeah. Andrea Paquette, customer service. Can I help you? No.
Yes, well, that would be a good time. So,
Yeah.
hey Danielle, how are you doing on YouTube? As one of our co-hosts, Monty says, "I'll trade you 2 shits for 1 fuck," and I'm okay with that. Hello, Monty, and this is a pleasure because I've interviewed Andrea and Gabe a few times before. Gabe, I feel like I've interviewed you in 3 different planets at this point, but I have
Multiple
never.
states, absolutely.
I have never spoken with this person face to face. We were supposed to meet up at the AAS conference in April. Sadly, that won't be. We won't be able to touch each other, I guess. But we can still connect. Tell the whole SPSM chat. Insert geography here. Who is? I should have asked you how to pronounce this beforehand, but let me give it my best college try. Who is Anja Burcak?
It's Anja Burcak. Hi, I'm Anja in Mobile, Alabama. I am a blogger. I started my blog back in 2015, and I've been blogging ever since. I'm also a social media manager for the support network, and I'm involved in victim advocacy here and in suicide prevention research. So I'm really excited to be on.
Very impressive headsets this week. I feel like I'm underprepared. It's always quite nice when the guests have better tech than me. So let's get right into it. It's 6:10 Pacific time, and we have a lot to talk about, and we've got some talkers tonight. So without further ado, let's go to question number one. Question number one, what attributes of bipolar can make someone feel suicidal? Let us go to whoever Krista puts the camera on. And it's Anja.
Hi. So is this question specifically about features or about the consequences of episodes, for example?
You tell me.
Okay. I think a lot of the features, say, of a manic episode can lead to consequences that may make someone more likely to be suicidal. Say if someone has a manic episode and then as a consequence they ruin their finances, their relationships with their family, with their friends, with their significant other, their career. There are just a lot of consequences that can kind of pile up and can make living with this condition overwhelming. Besides the actual symptoms in themselves, the symptoms can be overwhelming. The hopelessness of depression, or sometimes people think of mania as euphoric, but a lot of times it's really not. And mania can also be something that drives people sometimes to be in a really bad state of mind, I don't know, or there's a lot of comorbidities. And so there are a lot of things besides just what people think of as mood swings. I think it's a lot more complicated than that.
Well, how about your own experience, Anja?
I think my very first episode was a pure depressive kind of episode, and then it changed into agitated depression. But I think the worst time for me was when I was in a mixed state. So kind of having that manic energy, but then having that hopelessness and that ideation that is often frequently thought of with depression. So having the manic energy paired with that depressive mindset can be very dangerous. And so if someone is in a suicidal mindset and you pair that with the energy, they're more likely to act out if they're feeling suicidal. So I think that in my experience, a mixed state is kind of like the worst state to be in.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there have been times where I felt like I might have been in a mixed state, but like for me, like I don't like trying to put like things in boxes. It's just like I can describe the experience, but I never, well, not never. It's just very complicated about like, oh, that was a mixed state or that was a rapid cycling. It's just for me, just stating the facts and just trying to find other people who have just gone through the same things. And I guess you kind of have to use the same common language. Before I forget, two things. First off, Anja, I like that we have the same background. And Gabe and
Yeah.
Andrea. That's amazing. Are we all in my kitchen?
You told us not to tell.
Yes. Too many cooks in the kitchen. Too many bipolars in the kitchen. So, and before I forget, Anja, talk to us about what's the meaning behind the name Calculating Mind.
I think during my first maybe hypomanic state, I I was getting all of these thoughts, and it was really hard to follow sometimes, but it just felt like my mind was continuously branching off from one idea to the other and linking all these things together in really what I thought was at the time really cool ways. I don't know. But then I saw Kate Jamison had said an unquiet mind, and I was like, oh, I feel like that is a much better title. That one is taken. But that's kind of how my manic brain was feeling. Like it constantly was trying to figure things out and put things together. And that's kind of why I had that title for my blog.
Yeah, Kay Redfield Jamison is not the kind of person you want to piss off. So let's Gabe, I think Gabe knows that. So let's go on to Andrea.
All right. This subject is very near and dear to my heart because although my suicide attempt was 17 years ago, it literally is always at the forefront of my mind. And one of the attributes, obviously, of bipolar is depression. And for me, that's when it happened, was I was in the deepest, darkest, depressive state of my life. I couldn't even do my own groceries. I couldn't have a simple shower. It felt like climbing Mount Everest. It was absolutely impossible to live a normal life, go to work, have friendships. Everything just imploded. And so I remember depression for me, I just couldn't see out of it. And that was the most difficult thing. And I say that to a lot of people who are in depression is like, when I was in depression, I couldn't see out of it. It was like I was in quicksand and I was sinking and I just couldn't breathe. And eventually I broke. Luckily, I was in the ICU for 3 days and I survived, and then into my second hospitalization in the psych ward. But I've heard many people say as well that mania can also lead to a suicide attempt because people act unpredictably, and that can happen too, as well as psychosis. I was in a psychosis and was experiencing very strange things, you know, seeing things, believing things, hearing things that weren't real, and sometimes they're telling you really scary things.
What say you, Gabe?
It's always so tough. It's always so tough to be like, where does suicide lurk in the bipolar brain? Because I suppose the easy answer is it lurks in your bipolar brain. So I'm not sure like what it's attaching itself to, but I like to talk about bipolar disorder as being like that enemy that you have next door, and you just can't figure it out. You know you have an enemy, you know they live next door, you're aware of so many things, but yet if we've learned anything from the news, the weirdo next door always ends up killing the person, and they're just like, well, we knew there was something wrong with him, well, then why didn't you do anything about it? And suicide in my brain, it kind of feels like that. I'm aware it's there, I know it's there, I'm trying to do something about it, but every time it gets me, I'm like, you know, I knew there was something off about that thought. And that's just what makes this disease so insidious, right? It would be just so easy to say, when I feel X, this is a concern. But the reality is even when I'm feeling normal on a typical day and everything is fine, I'll just be sitting there watching television and I'll be like, hey, this could be a thought. I'll be like, where the hell did that come from? Like, I'm fine. I'm doing everything right. Society loves me right now. I think it's just there. I think it's just wrapped up in our brain, and it's willing to attach itself to whatever mood, thought, feeling, emotion that it can get in order to, and I'm going to use it now, in order to fuck with your day. And that's why I hate it.
Let me ask you, Gabe, has there been a time where you had a thought in your head, or a business idea or whatever, where you were pretty sure that was the mania talking, but you went through it anyway and it paid off?
That's such a, I can honestly say, sincerely, I have never had a business idea that has paid off. I've had great business ideas that the mania has ruined, but I'm not going to be an asshole. I have absolutely had ideas that was the mania talking that absolutely paid off. Generally not things that involve like a lot of planning and day, but I have I'm pretty sure that's how I met one of my wives. So, that paid off in its own way. I think I was a little bit manic when I got a dog, and I love that dog. So, yeah, I think that sometimes mania can push you outside of your comfort zone and make you take that leap, take that risk that you're afraid to take. And in that way, it's very helpful. And if the mania immediately subsides after you've taken that risk and you can get full sense of your faculties back, then it pays off really, really well. I think the detriment is if you come up with a manic idea and then you're expected to implement the plan while also manic. For me, it blows up at that phase.
By the way, I'm wearing your bipolar T-shirt.
I know, I love that shirt.
Yes.
I was gonna wear it, but mine.
You are brandless today.
Mine doesn't fit anymore.
Yeah, I actually had to lose weight to fit back into this. So
I got taller. I'm going with tall. See, I've got my bipolar tattoo. I mean, that's something, right? I should.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm not willing to do for your brand. So
yeah,
let's go.
Man. I thought we were friends.
There's a limit. Let's go to Joelle for question number 1, and then we'll take it to Twitter.
What attributes of bipolar can make someone feel suicidal? I did kind of answer this in Twitter, but I definitely think, there's a lot of internal and external experiences that are due to the symptoms and are the symptoms themselves, including, mania, as was mentioned. For me specifically, when I've taken actions to try to take my life, it's been because of bipolar, not because of anything else. And it's been when I've been in a mixed state. And mixed states are incredibly difficult. And I think part of it for me is that I feel it physically, and there is no way to ease that physical feeling of being torn apart, or like just having all this energy in my muscles and my brain, and then also feeling like complete fucking shit. So there's just no way to like balance that out. And we're not, like, a lot of people just aren't taught when they're kids to like deal with those kind of conflicting, intense emotions, which makes sense because it's not a usual thing. It's not a common thing to have such intense, conflicting experiences and emotions in one person at one time. I definitely think, though, that what can contribute to it is how people choose to understand people who are experiencing bipolar or not, choose to give them support or not, the kind of environment you have to figure yourself out or not, and how much leeway, support, and understanding you're given to kind of produce your own recovery in whatever way you need.
Do you think being married to someone who also has bipolar can make you even more suicidal at times?
I think it could possibly. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Like, people who have extreme internal distress, if they don't get their shit together, they can make each other worse. And it's just because it's another layer of stress that can come with conflicting emotions and feelings and experiences that you might not be prepared to deal with if you don't have your shit together in terms of like trying to figure yourself out or being committed to figuring yourself out. I definitely think being with someone else who is not committed to figuring themselves out is gonna be bad. It's not gonna be good. But I think in my case, because I don't just have bipolar, I also have OCD and autism, there's a lot of interesting things going on. And so I maybe deal with bipolar a little bit differently than some other people do.
Well, it's a good thing we're on the same page. Let's take it to Twitter real quick. I see you, Francesco, on Facebook. Hey, Danielle, again, joining us like on Twitter and YouTube. I appreciate that. So just real quick, Danielle, I'm a child and adolescent therapist. Love my SPSM homies, some of the people I love the most in my life. That's really appreciated you. So Gretchen, I don't think we've seen you in a while, who's still getting college credits, so that's awesome. Manic episode, in response to question number 1, manic episodes experiencing the highs and lows can make someone feel suicidal. And then Joelle, you kind of said the same thing, but let me just read it anyway. There are so many internal and external experiences that come with bipolar, but I would say while the experience of the symptoms are difficult and distressing, how other people respond and the comfort, alienation, connection, or support we experience or don't matters too. And Katie Gordon. Hello, Katie. How are you? Another person that I'm sad not to be able to see in person in April. Hi, everyone. Can't tune in. Well, that's awesome. So, question number 2, and that would
Hi
be
for you.
question number 2. And that would be, what are the positives and negatives of being open and comfortable with being bipolar? And originally I used the word bipolar pride because I know there are people where it's like, yeah, hell yeah, I'm bipolar. Let's have a party. There's nothing wrong with it at all. So, but I want to make sure that it's more clear to others as well. So take it away, Anja.
Well, I want to start with that there are different levels of disclosure. So for some people, they're open to their significant other, their close family. To other people, they are open to all of Twitter and beyond, like some of us. But I think that there are positives and negatives at every level. So a negative potentially is that you could share your story with someone and they could have a negative reaction to it and they can possibly treat you differently. So I think that's something that people should keep in their mind. Unfortunately, stigma does exist. And you just have to keep that in mind that if you choose to disclose, there could be some negative consequences, whether that is with a coworker or with a close friend. But also there are positives because I think that sharing your story is a great way to fight the stigma, and it encourages other people to learn more about the condition or about mental health and mental illness, possibly to go seek treatment for themselves if that's needed. And so I think that's a really big positive, just your ability to impact others and to help them if they need that kind of boost to seek treatment or to get help.
Apologies if you already stated this, Anja, but how long have you been open about being bipolar?
So the end of 2015.
And was there a specific instance that made you want to come out, or was it something that had been boiling for a while?
Mania itself was a very big factor in that one coming out at that time. So, but I've stuck to it. It's not like at the end of the manic episode, then I deleted everything. And so I open up because of a manic episode, but then I'm happy that I did so.
Are those posts still online?
A lot of it, yes. And a lot of it was creating a lot of blog content that was very, very bad, but a big quantity of very bad, just as in not good writing content. So
should see my stuff from that time.
Like hypergraphia, I guess. I don't really know, just a lot of content creation. So I've scaled that back and deleted a lot of that. But it is interesting to kind of look back at that and see what was kind of going on in my head. What
say you, Andrea?
Well, I have a lot of things to say about this. I hope that's okay.
Go for it.
All right. Bipolar disorder, I don't know. It's given me a lot of gifts in a lot of ways. I have to be honest about that. A lot of positives. I used to dream of creating a charity for mental health. And I always tell myself, well, if I didn't pursue that dream and now having the stigma-free society with 6 programs, educating people in schools, community, businesses, it's been a dream come true. And I look back to 17 years ago when I was first diagnosed, and I'm like, if I never got that diagnosis, the stigma-free society would cease to exist. So I just feel like it gave me a gift in the sense of a career path, which was really amazing. And over the years, I've been able to speak as an expert, as many of us are with our lived experience. It's not just about facts. It's not just about doctors. It's about people like us who have a lot to share with our personal experience. As well, I think it's made me a more empathetic person. And I think that maybe a lot of us can relate to that. My mother has bipolar disorder. I never understood her growing up. And now I feel like I actually can empathize with her and we have a better relationship. And just to touch on a few of the negatives, obviously stigma, there's a lot of stigma around disclosing, and there was for me. I ended up losing my house, a place where I lived. My roommates took my key and the hospital became my home. I luckily made it through that. But as well, there's a lot of institutional stigma for people in, the work field, dealing with bosses who are doing job performance measures and just don't understand this is an episodical type illness. So there's a lot of internal stigma lastly as well, where we are ashamed. So that can be a negative too.
All right, let's go to Gabe. And I see your comment, Tara Mandarano. You're not the person who created the spoons theory, are you? Or is that someone else? But we'll get to your comments soon. But Gabe Howard, how are you?
I am well. Where am I? Why am I here? I'm like bipolar Babe. I have an awful lot to say on this subject that could just fill just probably volumes upon volumes upon volumes. I wrestle because, like bipolar Babe, my entire career is because I have bipolar disorder, right? I mean, you're literally wearing a shirt because I don't know that I would have had a shirt otherwise, Rudy. But I kind of look at things a little differently. Something that inspires you doesn't become ipso facto good. And I think that we understand this a little bit in society. For example, we have Mothers Against Drunk Driving. The woman who started that and who was the executive director for a long, long time, she started it because her child was mowed over by a drunk driver, and it wasn't illegal, so that person didn't even lose their license. So her child was dead, and she started what is now a national movement. I don't think this retroactively makes drunk driving a benefit or a positive. And I get a lot of pushback on that because I think people just really want to take a negative and see the beauty in it. And I do too. I want to take a negative and see the beauty in it. I just don't go the extra step of saying that the negative is beautiful. And that's really kind of where I am. As far as the positives of coming out, my career, the people who I've helped, all the people who hug me, I got to be a published author. If I didn't have bipolar disorder, I'd probably just be some millionaire tech guy, maybe a playboy with like lots of girlfriends. I mean, who wants that life? Now I get to be like impoverished and everybody says that I steal from my wife. So this is, there's pluses and minuses, right? But I joke a little bit in there, but I think that there is this sense of if I wasn't bipolar, I wouldn't have all of this. So therefore, whatever life I would have had would have been bad. And I kind of don't like that. I would like to think that if I never would have gotten sick, if I didn't have bipolar disorder, that I'd have a good life too. I don't like the idea that something really bad has to happen to a person in order for them to become their best self. But this is tough because I do really like the idea that when something really bad happens to a person, we do become our best selves anyway. So it's kind of a warring. I don't know. It's almost like a bipolar thought, even in my own head.
I have thoughts, but let me go to Joelle first.
Okay, what are the positives and negatives of being open and comfortable with being bipolar? I think, a lot of what was mentioned, people don't understand or choose to not understand the experience and therefore act like assholes to people experiencing it. I also think that, it can go toward harmful things where sometimes I've seen, not with just with bipolar, but other issues that maybe affect your functioning, that people just say, this is just how I am, like, and you have to deal with it. And that's, I don't agree with that. I mean, I think anything you do has consequences, and eventually you have to be responsible for those consequences. But that can look like a lot of different things. I think for me, being open and comfortable with being bipolar, with other issues with OCD, it was necessary. Not doing that caused me a lot of grief, caused me a lot of distress. It was personally harmful to who I am. And it made me feel like I was lying all the time. And having to hide things that I experience and how those things that I experience affect who I am just was painful. And so it wasn't really a matter of, do I choose to tell people that I have bipolar? It was a matter of, if I don't, I might die. And I'm laughing because it's like uncomfortable, but that's what I do. But also, you know, if I didn't choose to be open with that, I know that the people that I have supported in sharing what I share and in, you know, giving them a space to talk, they wouldn't have had that. And, you know, I think we each choose our own thing and we each deal with whatever consequences comes with that that's best for us. But for me, it's always been better for me to be just real about who I am, what I experience, and how those experiences contribute to the decent person I am.
Yeah, for me, like I don't see bipolar in terms of good or bad, beautiful, ugly, harmful, helpful. I just see it as is. If anything, it is an adversity. But I mean, everyone has some kind of adversity. If they don't, then 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10, they're an asshole who doesn't get humanity and is a heartless prick. So people have different adversities, and it just means, I mean, it takes a lot of strength. It takes a lot of just sheer willpower to get through life with bipolar. And the fact that people like us are doing great things, it's amazing. It is oftentimes the exception to the rule. But I mean, I can't really see things in terms of, well, if I wasn't bipolar, if I didn't have my manic crash or hospitalization, all of this stuff would happen. I don't know. There is no there is no alternative. There's no way of knowing for sure. All I do know is I am bipolar. I have been hospitalized. I have been suicidal. I've had all these awful things happen to me. And yet, here I am. But again, I don't thank bipolar for those things. I'm not like jumping up for joy. I'm just saying, this is who I am. It's part of me. It's certainly not all of me, but I also I don't blame it for my problems, but I also don't attribute my successes. I guess it's a little bit more nuanced and probably not the sexiest answer, but long story short, it's not about whether I would change things or not. It's just about, okay, well, this is the way it is. Let's move on. Speaking of moving on, let's take some Facebook questions. Again, hey, Tara says, so happy to discover. Wait, I think I got to that. You had a question. Thanks. Oh, you did not. Okay, don't worry about it. I have had some hypomania during recent quarantine, but now I'm crashing into depression, even though I'm on lamotrigine and Zoloft. Any tips?
Hi, Tara.
No. Joelle, do you have tips?
No.
What meds should Tara be on?
What med? Oh, you don't want to ask me that. I mean, I'll answer, just not publicly. I think that, you know, I'm friends with Tara on Facebook, and she's been really open about her experiences, and I don't know if that's been helping her or not, but if she feels like that is helpful, she just needs to keep doing that, because people that I've seen respond to her want to be supportive and they want to engage with her experiences. And if that's helpful, she just needs to keep on doing that. Not like it's going to fix everything, but having support in the different ways that we can right now is helpful.
Hey, and another quick question from El Gitano. Sorry if I got that wrong, but how do you cope with the quarantine? For me, it's been hell being isolated, and that could be a whole different show. We've definitely talked about it. Oh yeah, that is the next question. Yeah. So feel free to integrate that into your response. Question number 3, and that would be, what would that be?
What effects can the COVID-19 crisis have on people with bipolar specifically?
There we go. Take it away, Anja.
Screen over to you, Anja.
Okay. Do I start? Yeah. Okay. So I think for a lot of people with bipolar disorder, routine is really important to still have. So still waking up around the same day, around the same time of day, and going to bed at a reasonable hour, trying to prevent not getting enough sleep or getting way too much sleep, making sure you eat well, and just having some structure. And I think also to try to prevent yourself from getting socially isolated, because obviously the physical isolation, that's very important, but that shouldn't turn into social isolation. So try to reach out if you can to friends, family, colleagues, peers, and stay connected with others, because I think this can kind of feel very familiar to people. For me, it kind of reminds me of when I socially withdraw during depressive episodes. So I think it can be kind of triggering for some people in that way, or being locked inside all the time may remind people of situations like psych units. I've heard that on Twitter. So just trying to go about your day to day as much as you can, and just having a routine and keeping healthy, and maybe getting some fresh air and staying connected with others.
What say you, Andrea?
I think Anja said everything that I was going to say.
What say you, Gabe?
No! Oh, for God's sake!
Yeah, give it back. There we go.
Joke.
Oh, that was cruel. Okay. Obviously with bipolar disorder, for myself, I just look at myself, and one thing that I found really difficult is my own wellness plan that I adapt to my life, and not just medication, but it comes down to a whole array of things that I like to do to stay well. And even one little part of that is getting out in nature. Sure, I can walk around the block right now, and maybe there's no questions at this time, but there's going to be a lot of anxiety right now, and I'm feeling a lot of anxiety, and I think a lot of people with bipolar and people in general really are feeling this way. I just know that everything feels off. I'm used to a routine and getting out, going to active rehab for my exercise, or going to meet a friend for coffee. So I have that outing to see a friend, or traveling to see my mother who needs support. And that makes me feel more grounded. I just feel like everything is in a mix of array. It's terrible. I feel a lot of people, especially, I always say the best 5 minutes of my day is when I wake up, because I forget that this pandemic is happening. And it's really hard for everybody right now.
Well, that was more than I was anticipating.
Yeah, me too.
No, but seriously, thank you, Andrea.
Thanks.
Don't mean to give you shit.
That's all right.
Okay.
You're good at that.
I'm in hell. I think that sometimes you gotta call it like it is. This is absolute torture. This is probably the worst thing that has ever happened to me, and this is coming from a guy who is been in a psychiatric hospital. I mean, literally the entire world shut down. I have no place to go. I'm trapped. All of my social outlets are gone. My business has been decimated. I'm stuck staring at the same people who are tired of me in the best of times. I think that if you grabbed any person with good mental health and said, hey, how are you handling this? They would say, oh my God, it's horrible. I don't like this. I just want to go out for drinks with my friends. I want to go out for a piece of cake. I want to go to a movie. Okay, so that's how the normal person feels. And now put that on my life. I also have an anxiety disorder. And if you would have told me, hey, Gabe, what are you worried about? And I would have said, I'm worried that the whole world's going to shut down and I'm not going to be able to leave my house. You would have told me to go to therapy so fast. And here we are. So the good news is I'm not crazy. I'm just ahead of the curve. I don't know what to do. All of my coping skills, they do not involve being quarantined in my home. So the coping skills are out the window, and these things took years to build. Now I have 4 to 9 months, weeks. Nobody knows what's going on. And every time I turn on the TV to figure out what's going on, it just depends on what news channel I turn to what's going on in the world. Half of the world thinks it's a hoax, we're exaggerating. The other half thinks we're all going to die. Then there's this idiot that thinks that it's just to mess up his political ambitions. I don't even know. I don't even know what's going on. So I just sit here and make it all up in my head. Again, I'm not exaggerating. Worst thing to ever happen to me. Easy. Oh, and my whole support system, they're scared of this too. So they don't really have time for Gabe right now, which is reasonable. Which is, I don't blame them. That's how I feel about what's going on.
I have time for Gabe.
Thank you, Rudy.
We need to have a Zoom karaoke party. That will solve all of our problems. At this point, aren't we all just Zoom's bitch, and Zoom just owns us all? Like, what? How did that happen? How did Zoom just become like the daddy of all of our lives?
I have a theory that Zoom and Charmin got together, and they're like, "I've got an idea." And like in 20 years, we're going to see like a 6-part HBO documentary on it. And it's going to be called like Mick Corona. And somebody like carried it off. On the plus side, you all should watch that Tiger documentary.
Oh yeah,
it's the only thing that is upstaging COVID-19 right now. Like literally, it's the only thing.
I didn't hear about this.
It's on Netflix.
Okay.
It's messed
Speaking
up.
of Tiger King, what say you, Joelle?
Yeah, we started watching that last night, by the way. I just have to look at the question again. Sorry. What effects can the COVID-19 crisis have on people with bipolar specifically? I think for me, definitely my sleep pattern is even worse than it usually is lately, which is saying something. I don't really have a good sense of time, and because the rest of the world isn't really having a good sense of time, mine is just completely out the window, and that's kind of messing with me. I do have to say, as you know, the crisis was accelerating, I definitely had ideas about what was happening, what was going to happen, and turns out I was pretty right about a lot of them. But what was hard was that other people weren't really putting the dots together like I was, and so I definitely started to feel like a lot of the same feelings I've had before, where people have called me crazy or told me I'm being paranoid or asked me if I've taken my meds, like just thoughts like that. And feelings like that coming from other people, even though like I could connect the dots, A, B, C is going to equal D, and we got to get ready for it. So that was hard. And I'm still kind of trying to recover from that, because I hadn't had such a surreal feeling of, I know what's true and I know what is happening, versus a lot of other people being like, we don't see this and you're crazy. And that was intense. I do think that being inside for so long is really starting to get to me. And it wasn't getting to me slowly. It was like yesterday at a specific moment, I was just like, okay, I'm feeling it. It's definitely made it harder for me to organize my thoughts too. So there's that.
No, I hear you. And before we get into question number 4, our last question, I just want to give a shout out to Gretchen. Her response to question number 3, with social distancing, COVID-19 can push someone into a low period with the isolation/anxiety. Losing that connection with others, if in therapy and having to do it virtually, can lessen the impact/helpfulness, can make you feel all alone. There you go, Gretchen. Show your professor that so you get extra credit that I gave you a shout out on SPSM Chat. Aaron said anxiety, and insomnia. It's been hell for me, to be honest. Well, as you can see, Aaron, you are far from the only one, but I appreciate you hanging out with us. Question number 4. What are your hopes and predictions for how people with bipolar are treated/viewed in the next several years? Anja.
So I think that what I'm seeing in terms of the treatment, as in like actual medical treatment, is I think that there's going to be more of a genetic approach with genetic testing. and with the pharmacogenetics. And so I think if there's testing like that, then for whatever reason, I feel like a lot of people right now don't think of bipolar disorder as being like a tangible thing. But if you have a biological test, then it seems more real. I don't know if that makes sense. But I think that if there is that kind of testing and that kind of treatment, then maybe people will view it as more legitimate. And hopefully people will start taking it seriously and not view it based on things like Hollywood cliches, and start actually listening to people that know what they're talking about, start listening to experts and not relying on old cliches and stereotypes. So hopefully with more people opening up and sharing their story, we get to actually put faces to bipolar disorder and what it really means, and not just Hollywood's portrayal of it as evil, aggressive kind of people that just randomly swing from angry to sad to happy nonsensically. That's not what bipolar disorder is.
You seem to be especially excited for World Bipolar Day, Anja. Why is that?
Because I love talking about bipolar disorder, and I've had people message me, and people that I didn't know had any condition or anything, but they said that it helped them. And I know someone who got treatment because of me talking about it. So it means a lot to me that when other people are sharing it, and then I see that it spreads all over social media for a day, I feel like we're making an impact, at least for one day. So it gets me excited.
Well, thank you. And by the way, Anja has a pretty cool YouTube channel with really well done artwork on her videos. So go check that out. I'll try to tweet that out sometime soon. So great stuff there, Anja.
Thanks.
Let's take it to Andrea Paquette.
Oh, you don't know how to say my name still. My God. Andrea Paquette. Well, Rudy, I have a lot of hope for the future for people with
shouldn't.
bipolar. I do. I definitely do. I think obviously this will pass, right? This pandemic isn't going to last forever. I really feel like it will. And when we're going forward in our lives, I just truly hope that there'll be less misunderstandings about what bipolar disorder is, because I get it, like, to this day, of people being like, support your cause and I support what you're doing, but what is bipolar? And I just feel like there'll be more education in the world, and obviously different countries are at different places, and I do see that happening. I just really hope for more education across the board, and as well more initiatives, projects, nonprofits by people who have mental illness, and just see them succeed and come together to make their dreams come true and to make an impact in the world.
Gabe?
So I love my grandmother. I just want to start by saying that in case she ever watches this. I love my grandmother. She is 85 years old, and she's like one of my biggest fans. And when I first got started, she sat me down and she said, Gabe, I think this bipolar thing is going to be like the C word was. And now, my generation knows the C word as being a very different word. But she's old. She meant cancer. And I after the hilarity ended, and I thought, oh man, this poor woman. She told me that back in her day, I don't know when that was, the turn of the century, I guess, nobody wanted to say cancer because they were afraid of it. They felt that there was voodoo around it, that if somebody got sick, they got the C word. And that's what they said. Obviously, I want all the same things that everybody wants. I want people to openly discuss it. I want people to get treatment sooner. I'm really excited about genetic testing. I'm really excited just about so many things. But I'm really excited about the idea that, we just talk about cancer. We just do. We're scared of it. It's frightening. It is misunderstood, but we all work out those misunderstandings. Bob has cancer. Bob doesn't have the C word anymore. And the way that my grandmother spoke about it and talked about it, it really made me think, okay, we're not in uncharted waters here. People were afraid of cancer just like they're now afraid of mental illness and bipolar disorder. I don't know why we don't call it the B word. I think that might be kind of cool. Maybe that's like the next iteration. I don't know. But one of the things that I desperately want is for people just to be willing to have the tough conversations. Because I think that if people would have had tough conversations with me when I was younger, I would have just done a lot better. I might not have been suicidal for as long, or suffered as much, or ended up in a psychiatric hospital, or just so many ors. Because everybody's like, well, we thought something was wrong with you, Gabe, but we didn't know what to say, and we didn't want to be mean to your family. So in the meantime, they just let a young adult, a teenager, suffer because nobody wanted to have this difficult conversation. So all this ties up into one of the things that I'd really, really, really like to see is for people to say, I'm uncomfortable. I don't understand mental illness. I'm terrified. Give me your hand. Let's get through this together. Let's find out the facts and let's see what we can do, rather than everybody just whispering and talking about mental illness and old pop culture references. His cheese done slid off his cracker. He's one fry short of a Happy Meal. I'm bipolar. All right. I want to see that just so desperately, because then I think the other things will follow.
The B word should be the title of your next podcast, Gabe.
Or book.
Ooh.
There we go. Stop blowing into your mic, Gabe. Okay, so let's go to Joelle, then we'll go to final thoughts.
Sorry, it helps me to always see the. Okay, thank you. What are your hopes and predictions for how people with bipolar are treated / viewed in the next several years? I think generally a lot of my difficulties with being able to deal with the issues that come with bipolar, including the medications, the whole finding support, finding treatment, had a lot to do with how people were treating me as a person, which was not very good at all. I think that we need to, in terms of my providers, a lot of them chose to treat me as though I had no sense of what I wanted or needed. And a lot of people that I would run into would say, you don't seem bipolar. Are you sure you're bipolar? Or that's a really common diagnosis now. I don't know. I mean, if I'm getting support in some way or I'm pursuing treatment, I'm trying to be responsible for myself. I'm trying to do the best I can for myself. Why do you have to be an asshole like that? And I think also some of the problems are that, with treatment protocols, they're used to really deny people's experiences when they have issues with medication, or when they say a medication's not working, or that an experience is a certain way. I think we need to let go of believing only research studies, and also believe the people that we're supporting, like everything else. So I hope that, in the next several years, we'll start realizing that people with bipolar do have a say in how they're treated, and it's gotten better, but it's still pretty bad. And I also, when I was really having a hard time and first being diagnosed with bipolar and first going through all these different medication trials and stuff, I was constantly told, well, you'll get better and you'll be a productive member of society. And that idea of what that looks like tends to be very specific and very narrow. And I think we need to realize that people can live their lives in a way that's best for them. And that's not going to always be a 9 to 5. And I really want to continue to embrace that well past this crisis and well past all these embraced accommodations. I want it to keep going.
All right, so before we get on to final thoughts, just want to give one more shout out on Twitter to Tom Crook. Says, in response to question number 4, my hope is that society begins to embrace mental illness as mental diversity. Survival used to be the equalizer. We're finding out that the mind is the way forward, not the body. Hashtag SPSM, hashtag SW5502. There's another person who is only doing this to get college credit, so that's awesome. No, but seriously, thank you, Tom. Thank you to Gretchen as well. I appreciate that.
I'm sure there are other things that they could do, and they choose those.
They could be watching the big football game. So, final thoughts. Anything you want to talk about? Anything you want to promote? If you have any plans for World Bipolar Day? Let's hear it. First and foremost, let's go to Anja.
So tomorrow is World Bipolar Day. If you want to engage with me on Twitter or Instagram, feel free at Calculating Mind. I'll be sharing a lot of posts. If you tweet at me, I'll very likely just retweet it and share it too. And I'll probably be sharing these portraits of bipolar people. Yay!
Cool.
Is there anywhere else we connect with you, Anja?
I'm on Facebook, Instagram, email, whatever. I don't really care. But
No, that's totally fine. Like I predict big things for you, Anja. You might even be the next host of SPSM Chat.
Thank you.
So we'll talk about that off stream. What's final thoughts for you, Andrea? I'm so glad, Andrea, that we were able to reconnect. I know we've both been busy in our lives, but here we are. We get to hang out again online.
Yeah, now we're both married. Isn't that interesting?
To each other?
Not to each other. Your wife is like the lady.
The lady.
The lady in the corner. All right. So, as I said, I love to write blogs for Bipolar Magazine, bphope.ca. They're going to be doing a big type of promotional campaign across social media tomorrow. I'll be part of promoting that. Could I talk a little bit about the new Stigma Free Society COVID youth program?
Sure, that sounds interesting.
It really is. Oh my gosh. Okay, so as a charity that delivers programs in schools, all the schools are shut down for now, and who knows for how long. So we want to make our charity relevant, adaptable, versatile, all those things. And so we have a new program, a new toolkit coming out called the Stigma Free COVID-19 Youth Wellness Toolkit. And we have 2 weeks to get this program on the ground. We're applying for funding for it. This toolkit is for parents, educators, students to have sound mental health at home, to have things like conversation cards between parents and their children to ensure that that communication is flowing and that people are being supported in their mental health journeys while they're at home, not just in the schools. So the website for that is stigmafreetoolkit.com. And I'm really, really excited for World Bipolar Day. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn as Bipolar Babe or Stigma Free Society. You'll definitely find me. And thanks so much for having me. It's lovely to see you again.
Yes, we get to have on the Bipolar Babe, so that's awesome.
Thank you.
Yes, so I'm sure we'll reconnect and be able to collaborate more.
Yes.
Until then, thank you so much, and let's go to Gabe.
Hey,
I hear you do things, Gabe. I hear you promote different things. So
I do. I've got a great big list. Hang on, let me get out the list. Everything that I do can be found at GabeHoward.com. That's probably the fastest way to find something that you're interested in. I'm the host of the Psych Central podcast, which is an educational show. I'm the host of the Not Crazy podcast, which is a show where I can swear. I do stuff. I used to write for Bipolar Magazine, which was really cool back in the day. So GabeHoward.com. That's all you need to know about me. But I want to tell a little cute story about World Bipolar Day from back in the day. International Bipolar Foundation, who I think started this whole thing way back when, if my memory is serving correctly, they used to do a picture. You took a picture and you hashtagged it World Bipolar Day. And my wife and I decided that we would just be adorable one year, and we would hold signs wearing my bipolar shirt, and it would say, I have bipolar disorder, and this is my wife who loves me. And she was like, my husband has bipolar disorder, and I'm his wife who loves him. And it was adorable and cute, and we just thought that we were awesome. And we held these signs, and we stood up, and we got a nice little picture, and we sent it. And people just loved this damn thing, and it went everywhere. And I continue to use it, years later, and I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome. I am so awesome. My star is rising. I am badass. And one day I'm at a conference and somebody mentions this picture, and they're like, hey man, that was a great picture. And I'm like, thank you. It promotes bipolar disorder. And the guy's like, no man, your wife's just hot. I was like, all that work, all that advocacy, and all I needed was an attractive woman. Like, why bother? But on the plus side, my wife's hot. So, but it was a really cool experience with World Bipolar Day, and I'm glad it's still around, because I think it's a neat thing to do.
Well, I'll tell you, once I had Joelle on the show, like, the numbers just skyrocketed.
I get it. Yeah.
It's because I'll say more than one fuck.
Yes, there we go.
Don't give a fuck about the fucks.
Awesome. Do you have any more final thoughts besides that, Joelle?
Yes, actually. I think that my brain won't work. I think that we really need to let go of emphasizing that all people with bipolar are creative, and that's a fair trade-off. And like, that's still going on. That is still going on, and it's got to stop, because like, I am a creative person. I'm an artist, but like, that doesn't mean stuff doesn't suck sometimes. And I mean, like, this whole idea of the suffering artist or whatever, it's not romantic. Like, it's not beautiful. It's not like grotesquely lovely. It's just how people are. And often I think that, when you are presented with distress, when you're presented with challenges, internal and external, when you're presented with things that not everybody experiences, your brain's going to come up with ways to deal with it in unique ways or not. And that's going to lend to creativity. But that doesn't mean all bipolar people are glorious creatives and like, they don't go through some shit. We got to stop doing that. I think that's it.
Okay, here are my final thoughts, and it's this, okay? The reason for the Diet Coke shortage is because of Gabe Howard. That's going to do it for this week. Thank you, everyone, for checking out SPSM Chat, SPSM Suicide
We didn't
Prevention.
talk about bipolar rage, huh? Gabe, I need some of that Diet Coke.
Social media. Dude, this guy, he's the only guy that I know that has a keg full of Diet Coke that is gone by the afternoon. I mean, fucking gone.
Morning. That's like the morning amount.
He is not playing around.
No.
God, you're in like cahoots with my mom. Her and her Diet Coke.
She's the other one.
Don't tell Gabe's wife about that. Okay, so I'm sure we'll talk about that more offline, but thank you, Gabe. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Anja. I appreciate you, even though I butchered all of your names except for Gabe. So that's going to do it for this week. Please go support all these people, these lovely people. They're all amazing. I'm glad we were on there. I'm glad we were all able to be in harmony and we didn't like completely devolve. That's going to happen in about a minute. So until next Sunday, our guest next Sunday is Victoria Maxwell, awesome person, also bipolar, but we're going to be talking about how being in the psych ward can make you suicidal because, spoiler alert, it can. Until next week, 6 p.m. Pacific Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, Facebook.com/SPSM Chat, Twitter.com/SPSM Chat. We are at SPSM Chat, of course, on Twitter. YouTube.com/SPSM Chat, where you can watch all past videos as well, and Mixer.com/SPSM Chat. I'm Rudy Caceres. Until next time, hold your piggies close.